What if Mace Windu trained Anakin Skywalker? That's our story for today. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get right into it. Our story begins on Naboo just before the funeral of Master Qui-Gon Jinn. The Jedi Council has traveled here to honor Qui-Gon, and many of them quietly felt a little bit at fault for not taking his warnings of the Sith more seriously. In a secluded palace room, Obi-Wan Kenobi was kneeling with Grand Master Yoda, as Obi-Wan said that he gave Qui-Gon his word that Anakin would be trained, and if the Council does not allow this, then he will leave the Order to fulfill this promise. Yoda poked his stick into the floor, not looking at Obi-Wan, and he said he's already made an executive decision. A moment later, Mace Windu entered the room and said he received Yoda's message to come visit them in here, and he looked to Obi-Wan, apologizing, but affirming the Council's choice to not have Anakin trained. And now Yoda shook his head with a small chuckle, and he told Windu that he has changed his mind on Anakin, and he's decided that Windu will train young Skywalker. Silence filled the room as Windu wasn't sure if he just heard that right. Windu hadn't trained a Padawan since Depa Billaba, and although she turned out great with her now being on the Council, Windu didn't like this idea. He was the Master of the Order, a leader of the High Council. He didn't have time for the daunting task of training this boy from Tatooine. But Yoda said again that this decision is final, and he expects this to be good for both Skywalker and Windu, as he slowly walked out of the room. The funeral would soon get underway, and Windu would spend a lot of it looking at Anakin as he stood next to Obi-Wan, Queen Amidala, and new Chancellor Palpatine, and Windu decided he'd better embrace this training. Deep down, Windu always thought that he may be the prophesied Chosen One, but maybe his destiny was always to train the Chosen One. One of Windu's greatest abilities was called Shatterpoint, and it allowed him to look and see threads or weaknesses in people, objects, or situations. And when he looked upon Anakin, Mace could see that he was the Shatterpoint to everything. When Windu was assigned to train Anakin, the Council hoped that Windu's discipline and unique mastery of the Force could guide the young, troubled boy on the right path. However, from the beginning, the relationship between the two of them was very strained. Their first time ever meeting was in the Council chambers, when Windu tested Anakin, only to reveal to the boy that he would not be trained. From that moment, Anakin harbored a disdain for Windu, and after the funeral of Qui-Gon, Anakin felt like he was suffocating when he learned that his master was going to be Mace Windu. Neither of them truly wanted this, and in their first lessons, they would truly not mesh well together as Master and Padawan. Anakin was stubborn, and Windu was still not sure this was a good idea. Windu was a stoic, serious mentor, treating Anakin more like a weapon that needed to be honed, rather than a person in need of guidance. He would push Anakin hard, expecting nothing less than perfection from the Chosen One, and he offered little in the way of comfort or understanding. For Windu, the idea of forming a personal bond with his apprentice was rather foreign, and he believed the strict discipline would forge Anakin into the ultimate Jedi. Anakin, on the other hand, would struggle with the weight of these expectations. He was lonely, frightened, and he yearned for the warmth and the compassion that he left behind with his mother on Tatooine. He needed a master that saw him as a person with genuine human emotions, rather than just another Jedi Padawan that had been here basically since birth. He wasn't. He was on Tatooine for 10 years. He was different. He needed to be treated different. And as the months passed, Anakin found it increasingly difficult to connect with fellow Padawans. His natural abilities set him apart, but rather than any admiration, the Padawans held resentment and jealousy among his peers. Mace's harsh training regimen left Anakin isolated, with very little time for friendships anyway, and the young Jedi found no solace in his master's company. Windu's cold, business-like demeanor made Anakin feel like nothing more than a tool. He would spend the nights alone, often unable to sleep, thinking about his mother, watching the Coruscant traffic pass by, and he would just not like this at all. Anakin would begin romanticizing his time on Tatooine, only remembering the good parts, and soon he was wanting to go back to his mother. So, desperate and unhappy, Anakin longed for the simplicity and the love of his childhood, even though it was often rough on him. The constant pressure here, and the lack of any emotional support, led Anakin to make a heartfelt request to Windu and the Council. He wants to leave the Order, and return to his mother. When Anakin expressed his desire to leave, Mace Windu was secretly a bit relieved. He'd never truly felt comfortable with the idea of training this so-called Chosen One, and he'd often wondered if someone else might be better suited to the task. And so, Anakin was able to pack his things, and he was guided to a transport leaving the temple to go back to Tatooine very soon. This was his request, and the Jedi would not stop him. However, just before the transport took off, Yoda approached Windu, who was meditating alone in his quarters. Windu said he did feel bad, but he can't train Anakin. The boy is reckless, powerful beyond his own understanding, hostile, not understanding how to wield the Force. And Yoda said that Anakin reminds him of another young Padawan that was also troubled with lots of power. Mace opened his eyes and asked if it was himself. Yoda said yes, reminding Windu of what he was like before he adopted the stoic personality dedicated to the Jedi and to the Republic. He was similar to Anakin, arrogant, powerful, and in need of guidance. So Yoda reminded him of the significance of Anakin's potential, and the responsibility Windu bore as his master. The wise old Jedi urged Windu to look beyond his discomfort, see Anakin as a person, a young boy with feelings, fears, hopes, in need of a teacher. Windu was deeply affected by Yoda's words. For the first time, he began to truly reflect on how he'd treated Anakin, and he realized the harm he may have done. So Windu thanked Yoda, running out of the temple, getting to the transport just in time to find his Padawan, and he offered a sincere apology. Anakin began to hesitate, unsure if he could trust Windu, but Mace sat down next to him on the transport, and he said they will go to see his mother together. Perhaps it was foolish to try and force Anakin to try and forget her. Instead, they will go to her, and Anakin can show her how he has progressed. This genuinely meant a lot to Anakin, and so together they would travel to Tatooine, talking the entire time as Windu let his own mental guardrails down, allowing himself to form a true bond with his student that went beyond the Force. Windu would learn to enjoy Anakin's company, and on Tatooine, Windu would allow himself to see where Anakin came from, and how that should impact his training going forwards. They would also learn that Shmi was recently freed, and the Tusken Raiders would see that the Jedi are the Lars' allies, and forever decide to leave Shmi alone. And so, from that day forward, Windu challenged himself to change his approach. He would not only train Anakin, he would guide him, support him, nurture the humanity within Anakin. This change in Windu's attitude quickly transformed their dynamic. The training between Skywalker and Windu became much more adventurous, and soon Windu would begin taking Anakin from planet to planet without a Jedi weapon, teaching him how to resolve situations in peaceful, diplomatic ways, getting rid of some aggression. Most of these missions would go on without a flaw, but one of the missions would take Skywalker and Windu to Malastare when Anakin was roughly 15 years of age. They were tracking down a series of murders connecting to the top of Malastare's government, and the clues would take them to the Dug named Sebulba, the man that Anakin beat in a Tatooine pod race years ago. As Windu and Skywalker approached Sebulba's home, someone clearly tipped the Dug off, and Sebulba took off through Malastare in a pod racer. Anakin frantically looked around, seeing an old two-seat racer, and he told Windu to get inside of it. And it was perhaps the scariest day of Windu's life, as Anakin drove the racer through the hills and the caverns of Malastare, perfectly moving, using his Jedi training, to eventually catch Sebulba and arrest the Dug, who was found to be working for a crime syndicate to eliminate Malastare leaders trying to shut down the pod races here. Windu would never admit it, but Skywalker was some of the most fun he would ever have. Training with him, riding with him in that pod race, was exciting. Windu gave into it, and he was forming a real bond. One of their most significant journeys was to Ilum, where Anakin would undergo the ritual of constructing his lightsaber, finally. Windu purposely had Anakin wait a while, until he was sure the boy was ready. The icy planet was harsh, especially for a boy from Tatooine, and during his time in the caves, Anakin experienced powerful visions of the future, visions of war, darkness, and of his own role in the galaxy. When Anakin emerged, he'd been gifted a purple crystal for his lightsaber, an extremely rare choice that mirrored Windu's, and this made Windu very proud, affirming his choice to continue training Anakin. Anakin's personal crystal was a reflection of his own inner struggle, a blend of the Jedi and the Sith blue and red, symbolizing the balance that Anakin had yet to find. Lightsaber training with Windu was a daily challenge for Anakin, and during the training, Windu showed Anakin the forbidden form of lightsaber combat, his own creation of Vapad. Vapad was described as being more than a fighting style. It was a state of mind that led through the suffocating web of the dark side, requiring the user to enjoy the duel, relish the satisfaction of winning. The practitioner of Vapad would accept the fury of their opponent, transforming themselves into one half of a superconducting loop, with the other half being the power of darkness inherent in their opponent. Vapad came with the risk of the practitioner falling to the dark side, given its focus on combat, and it required a constant, sizable stream of force use from the user. Every time Windu tried to teach Anakin this technique, the young Jedi would lose control, letting his anger and his fear take over, as Anakin would often get too close to the edge of darkness. And concerned about Anakin's growing affinity for the dark side, Windu decided to teach Anakin the form of Jiamso instead. This form emphasized powerful strikes and defensive resilience, qualities that aligned with Anakin's natural aggression, but were less prone to leading him to the darkness. It was frustrating for both of them, but they couldn't risk Anakin falling into the dark. And as they traveled from planet to planet, Windu opened up more and more, sharing his own experiences, triumphs, failures, everything he could with his apprentice. They would visit the ancient ruins of Tython, where Anakin learned about the history of the Jedi and the importance of his own humility. They would take a mission to Kashyyyk, where the young Jedi forged a bond with the Wookiees over a year-long mission, understanding the value of loyalty, the strength that comes from true unity as a family. And on Naboo, they worked to resolve a local conflict, and Anakin witnessed firsthand the importance of diplomacy and compassion. Their bond grew stronger with each passing year, and Windu, who'd once seen Anakin as a mere child that was too dangerous to be trained, now viewed him as his true student, taking pride in Anakin's training. And Anakin, in turn, would find the father figure that he'd longed for, someone who, while stern, now showed him the care and understanding he'd craved. Anakin still struggled with his emotions, often feeling the pull of the dark side, but with Windu's guidance, he learned to channel his frustrations and fears into something constructive. The bond between master and apprentice became a source of strength for both of them, and their mutual respect would grow. During all of this, Anakin still would befriend Palpatine, as Windu thought of the Chancellor as a good man, at least until the Clone Wars would start, and Windu began to see Palpatine for what he was, power-hungry. So by the time the Clone Wars began, Anakin Skywalker was no longer the lonely, frightened boy he'd once been. He was a powerful Jedi Knight, tempered by the hard lessons of his master, but also enriched by the warmth and the understanding that had developed between the two of them. Windu also had changed for the better. He'd learned that the greatest strength came not just from discipline and skill, but perhaps from empathy, connection, and trust with his student. And in the war, there was no duo more powerful than Skywalker and Windu. Every mission they were on together was basically a guaranteed victory, and they often fought alongside Obi-Wan Kenobi and his own Padawan, Ahsoka Tano. Windu would not decide to give Anakin a Padawan yet, as his full attention was needed in battle. And Anakin never really formed a romantic bond with Padme, although he did often still think about her. Windu's love for the Republic influenced Anakin as well, and his desire to bring peace to the conflict took priority over any relationship, and Padme felt the same way. The war was long and terrible for so many, and it continued to drag on and on, despite numerous important victories for the Republic. Palpatine's meeting with Anakin would become less and less common, as Windu's trust for the Chancellor deteriorated, so in their rare meetings, Palpatine would learn as much as he could to try and turn Skywalker to the dark side. And in the final year of the war, Skywalker and Windu would take the lead on truly hunting down Darth Sidious. They knew he had to be the key to everything. Too many things in this war just didn't add up, and after a battle on Cato Nemoidia, the Jedi would find a valuable Mechno chair, which belonged to Newt Gunray, so he could contact Sidious directly. The chair contained a tracking beacon that would be able to take Gunray or any other Separatist leader to a hidden Separatist base, should an evacuation ever be necessary. And when following this beacon, Skywalker and Windu would discover that the beacon was leading them to the industrial sector of Coruscant, the capital of the Republic. The two Jedi decided to put everything they had into this search, and Sidious knew the Jedi were on his tail, so he contacted Grievous and Dooku, instructing them to launch the attack on Coruscant. So while Anakin and Windu were investigating underground tunnels below Coruscant, searching for the hidden Sith lair, an all-out attack was launched on the Republic capital. And while the huge battle was going on above them, Skywalker and Windu became quickly distracted, allowing Darth Sidious to sneak up on them while they were deep in the tunnels, as Sidious activated a ray shield that captured Mace Windu inside of it. Windu tried to break out of this, but the floor under him spewed electricity, and Windu fell to the floor in pain. From the shadows of these tunnels emerged Darth Sidious, telling Skywalker that his master will die today. And Anakin ignited his purple blade, telling this mysterious Sith that he will defeat him, free Windu, and this war will end. Palpatine smiled under his hood. He knew that every time Anakin tried using Vapad, he nearly turned to the dark side, so Sidious was going to push him all the way into embracing the darkness, joining him as the Sith will rule the galaxy, and the dark tunnels were illuminated with purple and red as Skywalker and Sidious circled each other. Sidious could see the future. Anakin would give in to the darkness. He would join the Sith as Windu died. As the Jedi are struggling with the Coruscant battle, they will execute Order 66, and the Sith will win this war. And they moved at each other, as Anakin now faced off against Sidious, their blades clashing together a few times, until Sidious spun away, unleashing a wave of chain lightning at Anakin, who barely managed to deflect it away with his blade. And nearby, Windu remained inside the ray shield, arcs of electricity coursing through his body. But despite the pain, Windu's voice cut through the chaos as he commanded Anakin's attention, saying, "Anakin, I trust you. Use Vapad. You can do this," Windu said. And Anakin hesitated, his heart pounding in his chest. Vapad was the lightsaber form that had always eluded him, the technique that channeled the Jedi's inner darkness into the weapon of the light. Every time he'd attempted it before, he'd felt himself slipping towards the dark side, unable to control the raw power inside of him. Anakin wasn't sure, but he looked back to Windu, who gave Anakin a smile and a nod, and now, in this moment of crisis, with Sidious taunting him and Windu's life hanging in the balance, something shifted in Anakin. He remembered all the years of training with his master, the bond they'd forged, and the trust Windu had in him. So with a deep breath, Anakin allowed himself to sink into the mindset of Vapad, embracing the darkness, without letting it consume him. Sidious sneered as Anakin's movements became faster, more precise, strikes fueled by a controlled fury that the Sith Lord did not anticipate. Anakin let himself enjoy the battle, wanting to feel the rush of victory. The young Jedi's lightsaber was a blur of purple light as he pressed the attack, drawing on the intense emotions rolling within him, but keeping them in check. And for the first time, Anakin found the balance with Vapad, turning Sidious's own dark power against him. And the Sith Lord, caught off balance by the sudden, balanced onslaught, faltered. Anakin flicked Sidious's blade away, kicking him hard into the wall, as Sidious looked up, urging Anakin to give in to the darkness, find his true destiny as a Sith, and rule the galaxy. But Anakin lifted his blade, telling Sidious that he is a true Jedi, just like his master. And with a final, decisive strike, Anakin drove his blade through Sidious's heart. The Sith was gone, and Anakin ran into the small chamber behind Sidious to shut down the ray shield and free Windu. The Jedi Master went unconscious, but first he told Anakin that he has done well. Anakin would carry Windu out of here, and as he emerged from the sky, he saw the Invisible Hand Separatist flagship blow up in the atmosphere. Grand Master Yoda had decided to face his past, and he defeated both Dooku and Grievous aboard the ship before making his grand escape. The Sith and the Separatists were defeated. The war was over. In the many years that followed, Anakin Skywalker's life took on a new sense of purpose. He was no longer burdened by the war or the fears he had of the dark side, as he became a key figure in the Jedi Order's resurgence. His connection to the Force deepened, and Anakin would take on his own apprentices, passing on the lessons he'd learned from Windu, and soon becoming a council member with his master Mace Windu. Windu viewed him as the Jedi's greatest success and his own greatest success. A man who'd faced the worst darkness and emerged for the Jedi as a beacon of light. And folks, that is our story for today. I like Windu a lot. I feel like he's, I don't know if I want to say misunderstood, but, you know, the Revenge of the Sith takes him down a path of being very stubborn and just not trusting Anakin, which I think is right. I mean, he could have been better, of course, but like, I don't know, the galaxy's fallen apart around him. He's dropped my phone. He's desperate for answers. And yeah, Anakin, is clearly in the middle of it all, but Windu just can't trust him to be with the Sith. It makes sense, but I really like the approach of Windu training Anakin, and I really wanted to hit on a few things. First, I wanted to go through rocky, rough patches of the training. I wanted to definitely have Vapad not work right away, just because I don't think Anakin was as accepting of his darkness or willing to throw it aside as Windu was with Vapad. So I wanted to have him not succeed in that until it was a desperate moment late in the video. Thought that was fun to write. And yeah, I just had a few key things that I really wanted to hit on. A little pod race action with Windu and Sebulba, because why not? And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see next, what you enjoyed about this one. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.